Testing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to Aero League Racing. I'm your host, for this week at least, NLR Sick Boy. I used to race in Tier 1 back in the day, quite a few months ago, but unfortunately university has meant that I've had to hang up the helmet and not race in League Racing on F1 or GT for a very long time. But anyway, I'm kind of experienced when it comes to this League Racing thing. Hopefully I can give a pretty good perspective into this race. It's Tier 3, Round 6 of the Group 3 Championship here at Watkins Glen long circuit. Now, bear with me for just a moment. I'm just going to configure my control scheme, make sure all my microphones working well, but I'll be back with you guys in a sec. Whilst I'm doing that, I will quickly spectate so that you guys can watch some pretty good establishing shots. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, tuning into the stream. I'm your host, NLR Sick Boy, and I'm back from, of course, configuring my setup. I do apologise if you can hear any noises in the background. You see, normally I shut my door when I'm giving a commentary just to minimise background noise. Unfortunately, I can't do that today, so you may hear a little bit of background noise sometimes, but let's hope that it will all be okay. Now, you see, I haven't actually raced, I haven't commentated too many GT7 races, but I'm sure it'll be okay. We will set everybody up on their online ID, and I believe, here we go. Now, quickly taking a look at the Tier 3 standings. Of course, if you're only just tuning in, this is Aero League Racing every Monday evening at 8 o'clock, and it is the Group 3 Championship, Round 6 here at Watkins Glen Long Circuit, and we're on board right now with BO2603. I do apologise if I'm talking a little bit slowly. I'm actually just trying to check right now what the Group 3 standings are, because that will give us a hell of a lot more information when it comes to the championship fight, and it doesn't seem like anybody has uploaded it. Unfortunately, so I'm absolutely scanning the Discord, but of course, whilst I'm doing that, we're witnessing an incredible flying lap right now by BO2603. Quickly changing the view, of course. I'm going to be sticking with the bonnet view camera for the majority of this commentary, just to give a really good insight onto what the drivers are obviously seeing. Of course, BO2603 on a pretty good flying lap right now, a quarter of a second up from his previous lap time. He's expected to pop maybe a 144.4, which is excellent. Of course, he is rocking the he's rocking some tyres. I'm actually not sure how see the driver's information at the bottom of the screen. Well, I guess we're going to have to roll with never finding out what tyres everyone's using. I'm quickly going to check right now the standings. Here we go, GT standings. GT Tier 3, and here we go, just pulling it up right now. Of course, I wouldn't expect anything different. It's BO2603 who is leading the Drivers' Championship right now with 158 points, 13 points ahead of the gentleman in P2, which of course is Leper32, only about a quarter of a second behind BO2603 right now in P2. Of course, in this qualifying, but also in the standings. Still quite a big gap between the two drivers, 13 points between the two as of last week's race, which was around Circuit de la Sarthe. Unfortunately, I missed that race, I couldn't commentate it, but I'm sure it was an absolute banger. Circuit de la Sarthe, one of the greatest tracks on earth, really, ladies and gentlemen, but in Gran Turismo in particular, it's pretty good. Now, just rounding up the top 5, we've got Andy Winters 11, Major XTC and Swerves, and they seem to be relatively spaced out. It's pretty close there in the top 5, only about 40 points separate the top 5 in fact. As you can see, Swerves from the US. Now, you see, beforehand I have wrongly commented about people's nationalities based on the nationality that is next to their name. I'm like, oh, Swerves, he's a US driver, and people are like, you do realise that people, you know, just lie about their nationality on this game so that they can do some crazy stuff like get the game early. Fine, I'll no longer be referring to people by their nationality in game. Swerves, he could come from anywhere on earth, probably is from the US though. He unfortunately can't improve on his lap time. It's still a 144.9, just shy of a 144.9 for the P3 spot. But of course, Major XTC, P4 in the Drivers' Championship right now, of course, just behind Andy Winters. I mean, let's see his line through the bus stop chicane. I tell you what, that was incredibly clean and square through the bus stop chicane, but unfortunately, I believe that's maybe turn 7. He misses the apex entirely, gets crazy understeer. Of course, he is rocking right now the Porsche 911 GTR, an incredibly popular car in daily races, but I don't think many people will agree on my opinion with the Porsche 911 GTR. I just can't really make it work for me. I don't think it's a very good car. I think it's quite overrated in my opinion. Lots of oversteer, lots of understeer as well. Of course, the car though of BO2603 currently leading the Tier 3 Drivers' Championship. Have I mentioned that? I might have mentioned that. Is the Lexus RCF. Is that actually? No way. It is the Lexus RCF, which is crazy because I don't think I've ever seen a single driver use that in daily races ever. So pretty interesting curveball choice And it's the Nissan GTR there for Leper 32. Of course, tier P2 in the Tier 3 Drivers' Championship. If you're confused, well, I'm also a little bit confused, but I'm sure we'll both figure it out together. Quickly on board right now with Major. We've popped in and out of his lap a couple of times. He's about to set, fortunately, not a very good lap. He's about a quarter of a second down from his fastest lap time, which is a 1:45.0. Major, I believe it's the end of the qualifying session now. Of course, parking his car at the end of turn 1. Any improvement, Swerves can't. He's 1.2 seconds down. Quite a lot of people are ending their laps right now. In fact, one of the only drivers who is on a flying lap right now is LD Kang. He's about a second behind BO 2603 right now. He's sitting in P9. In fact, there are quite a few drivers who are just about to finish their laps. Teammate of Swerves, unfortunately, not able to improve. LD Kang peels off into the pit. I believe one of the final drivers right now on a flyer is HTTP Pyro. There is somebody right behind him. But let's see if Pyro can improve at any point right now. It's a 1:45.755 for him at the moment, and he can improve by about a tenth of a second, but he doesn't improve any position. And quickly following to the final driver to cross the line. Yeah, right. Unfortunately, once again, he can't improve, ladies and gentlemen. So that's it for the qualifying. It's going to be BO 2603, the championship leader, on pole position in round 6 Watkins Glen, with Leper 32 just behind him P2, Swerves P3, Major XDC P4. Yeah, right, P5, Reset P6, Woo P7. Andy Winters 11, P8, which is surprising. He's currently P3 in the Drivers' Championship, Andy Winters, and he seems to have gotten a pretty strong last couple of races. I mean, he won the feature race in Circuit de la Sarthe, and then he won the sprint race. Week 3, I believe that was Sardinia. I'm probably wrong, but if it was, then that's an incredible result there for Andy Winters. He's currently P3 in the Championship. Fortunately, all the way down in P8 at qualifying. We'll see if he can turn it around maybe during the race. Of course, Pyro, the man who is stuck in Tier 3 seemingly forever. You see, I don't know too much about this championship, but I do know that Pyro is stuck in Tier 3. Well, he's sitting right now, pretty good position in P9. AB 53, P10 of course, Lego P11, Polty P12, Skittles P13. And LD Kang has rejoined the pit lane. I believe he may have had a qualifying ban. I know for a fact that Chills F1 has also got a qualifying ban. He's in the Chevy Corvette. I may or may not have recommended him to use that car. But alas, here we go. It is time for the sprint race, of course. Now I'm quickly going to pull up chat in the top right corner, just in case anybody tells me how to fix that UI glitch so that I can see the driver's stats at the bottom of the screen. Maybe I could actually pull out of the spectator role real quick and then join back in. No way if I just missed the start of the race. Maybe I haven't, ladies and gentlemen, but regardless, I guess we're just going to have to make do with no onboard information. It seems like it was a pretty bad start from BO 2603 because he's lost 2 positions already. He's all the way down in P3, but it's a crazy little tussle right now between 3 drivers. Into the bus stop chicane and completely misses his braking zone. He was completely under pressure there by Swerves. Swerves up the outside of BO 23, and now he's going side by side with Andy Winters. Andy Winters gets the really bad off-camber outside route there of, I believe, turn 7. And BO's trying to go down the inside of Swerves into the left-hand return 8, but he isn't able to pull it off. Andy Winters right now, right behind him in the BMW M6. Man, this is an incredibly tight battle for the first 5 positions. They are literally front bumper to rear diffuser. In fact, Reset is now going down the inside of Andy Winters 11. He gets an excellent exit there from turn 11. To be honest, I'm literally making up the numbers right now, ladies and gentlemen. BO just went for a dive bomb there, went incredibly deep into the suspiciously tight turn 12, 13, I'm not even too sure. BO's really not having a very good start now, is he? He's now also just been overtaken by Reset as he gets an incredible snap of oversteer. And now he's got HGT Pyro down his inside on the almost flat turn 14. I'm literally making up the numbers right now. He is now on the inside of Pyro. And Pyro goes incredibly deep. It's a crazy amount of oversteer right there around the final corner. And loses 2 positions to Lego and Woo. I mean, this is incredible racing, ladies and gentlemen. Chills F1 already gaining maybe 5 or 6 positions on the open lap. It looks like he's about to eye up a few more positions because he's right behind this massive train of about 5 or 6 drivers, which, to be honest, leads all the way up to P1. HTT Pyro going side by side right now with, I believe that is Woo. And he's going to stay side by side right up to the bus stop chicane. It seems like the Mazda Atenza has a much inferior straight line speed to the Toyota Supra. Woo does end up getting that P8 position before the bus stop chicane. Pyro trying to stay right on the back of Woo, but isn't able to. He gets a snap of understeer, and now he's on the off-camber outside of turn 7. It means Chills is able to get right up to the back of HTT Pyro, heading into turn 5, 6, 7, I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend like I know. Fortunately, Chills gets a pretty bad run through that turn right there. I guess he was going for kind of V-shaped racing line, but he just ends up getting a bit of understeer and hitting the handbrake. Of course, at the front of the pack, it's not too interesting. We've got about a 1.5 second gap between the 2 leaders. Leper absolutely loving it right now in the GTR Nismo. Let's see if he can hold it together though and maintain that P1 advantage. We've also got about a second gap between Mare and Swerves. Also about a second gap between Swerves and Reset, but I tell you what, behind Reset we've got this insane train right now. Lego going down the inside of Andy Winters, and in fact they're actually going to remain side by side through the final turn, and it looks like Lego's about to hit the wall, and he just about stays from hitting the wall, but Woo gets an incredible exit from the final turn. He's now up into P7, and it looks like he's going to try and make a move on the pole sitter of this race, Bo. It doesn't look like he went on pole, all the way down in P6 right now, and he really is struggling. But unfortunately, Woo isn't able to make that position. Instead, he goes quite deep and has to hit the handbrake round turn 1. It means Lego's able to regain that P7 position. HTT Pyro Chills still sitting in P9 and 10, but Polty right now in the, unfortunately, in the Renault RS01. Now, I say unfortunately, pretty much the worst Group 3 car in the game. And a bit of a contact there between Right and LD Kang all the way down in P13. They end up losing a hell of a lot of time. That makes Skittles, Monasti 7 and AB, 2 US drivers, potentially, unless they've used a VPN, end up getting P12 and P13, which is very interesting. At the moment, it seems kind of calm, actually. Right the way up the field to the leader, of course, now Leper, almost 2 seconds in the lead of Major. Major about 1.5 seconds ahead of Swerves. Swerves, meanwhile, in P3, he's not got a lot of gap at all, about half a second between him and the rest of this crazy train that goes all the way to about Polty. And Chills F1 there, getting a little bit of oversteer, maybe hitting the grass a bit too much through the deceptively tight turn 8, 9, 10, I don't know. I'm going to look at the track map in a minute, ladies and gents. Of course, the train kind of ended there, 2 second gap between Polty and AB53. But looking up, oh hang on, a little bit of understeer there for Andy Winters 11. Luckily it doesn't cost him too much. But yeah, like I say, looking up and down the pack, it doesn't seem like there's too much drama going on. I mean, it was a pretty intense first couple of laps, let me tell you that. Right now, Polty is trying to make a move on Chills F1, and he gets a pretty good, I must say, a pretty good line through turn 1 there. And he isn't quite able to make the move on Chills. He actually has to back out that one. I don't think he trusts Chills to maintain a pretty safe line through the flat out turns 2, 3 and 4. Of course, Chills F1 was given a race ban and a quality ban, I believe, for his incidents in Sardinia, I'm pretty sure. So he's been absent for the last couple of weeks, actually. He couldn't make the Le Mans race. And he's just been given a 3 second time penalty for cutting the bus stop chicane. I'm not too sure whether he did gain much of an advantage there, but of course, it's Aero League racing, and the corner cutting rules are on strict, meaning regardless to whether or not you think it's fair, it's going to be a lot of time penalties here this race, and a 3 second time penalty for Chills already. Didn't really gain that much time at all, and I'm not even too sure if he cut. I mean, he must have cut, surely. Well, he's serving this time penalty right now. It's going to make him lose a position to M. Polty and also to Skittles McNasty, who ends up in P11, which is pretty good for a lot of these back of the grid drivers, really. They all kind of started pretty bad, but it's a pretty good battle. I mean, back of the grid drivers. I'm being pretty nasty though, ladies and gentlemen. The drivers towards the back half of the grid. There we go. I mean, it's still a competitive battle, I'm not going to lie. I mean, LD can go in a little bit wide there. But, it's a pretty good battle right now. I mean, there's not too much to commentate on. Heading up and down the grid, of course, Lego's got a 1 second time penalty. He must have picked that up earlier in the race. Apart from that, Andy Winters 11's picked up a 1.5 second time penalty. That could be due to running wide at turn 1. I've got no idea though. I tell you what though, our pole sitter for this race, BO2603, he's desperate to get past Andy Winters, and he misses his braking zone and takes flight, ladies and gentlemen. I can't. That was absolutely ridiculous. Bit of a game glitch right there, but what really happened was BO2603 going side by side with Andy Winters 11 into the bus stop chicane. I mean, you hate to see it. It's always going to end in disaster. BO on the outside brakes incredibly late. I'm not too sure whether there was contact or just straight up understeer from BO's Lexus RCF, but regardless, he ends up going completely straight on at the bus stop chicane, hits a couple brake marker boards and stuff, and ends up completely taking flight and launching about 6 feet into the air. Well, what we end up seeing is BO losing a hell of a load of time. He's all the way down in P13, and I keep on mentioning it, I'm going to say it again, he was the pole sitter in qualifying, and he's also the championship leader, meaning Leper 32 is about to get a whole heap load of points right now, is sitting there in P1. This is going to make the championship absolutely exciting. Like I say, about, what did I say, 13 points separate the top 2 drivers, and Leper is absolutely loving it right now in P1, almost 4-second advantage over Major XTC. But going up and down the grid right now, it seems like the pack's kind of spread out a little bit. We're looking at, on average, maybe a 1 second gap between most drivers. We've still got a lot of the same drivers in the kind of the P8 to P12 range. The only real battle right now is going to be Andy Winters 11. I think he's going to try and pip himself another place. Of course, Lego has picked himself up a 1.5 second time penalty, the same penalty that Andy Winters 11 had last lap. I'm pretty sure that is due to running deep into turn 1. But apart from that, looking up and down the grid, of course, Swerve's going a little bit wide there through turn... I'm not even going to pretend like I know the number, and that's quite controversial. He actually picks up a 1 second time penalty for running wide and going on the grass. He lost a lot of time due to that move, but Polyphony Digital still thinks that it's worth a penalty. Picks up a 1 second penalty right now, and he does serve it immediately, and that means Reset is able to crawl himself into P3. And as that battle for P3 kind of concludes, of course, Andy Winters, Lego having to serve his 1.5 second time penalty, pops Andy into P7 and Skittles into P8. Skittles, I believe, started actually quite low down the grid, and we're getting a little bit of lag right now from Skittles McNasty. Maybe he does actually come from the US and we're trying to stream his position all the way across the pond. If so, he might become a little bit of a difficulty for other drivers to overtake him. Now, I'm not too sure what happened with LD Cannon, but it seems to be about 7 seconds behind. Yeah, right, and a lot of these drivers are quite a far bit away from the pack. I mean, we've got a little bit of a side-by-side battle right now happening between AB53 and Bo2603. Man, I do really feel sorry for BO right now. Of course, I'm going to mention it again. He started on cover. He ends up getting a pretty rough start and then just gets up, getting a tragic crash 2 laps ago, lap 5. And yeah, we're about 11 minutes into the race. By the way, it's a 15-minute sprint race. If you guys don't already know the ALR rules, of course, I'm not even explaining them. There's a 10-minute qualifying session followed by a 15-minute sprint race, followed by, previously, a one-shot quali and then a 40-minute feature race. we've mixed things up a little bit due to the most recent Gran Turismo update, which allows a reverse grids to take place. And hang on a minute, Andy Winters has just been given a 3-second time penalty. I've got no idea what for, but like I say, the corner cutting is on strict right now, so expect a lot of really harsh, possibly borderline unfair penalties to be administered this race. I mean, you got to feel for Andy Winters 11. He has actually had a pretty rough time with time penalties right now. But yeah, as I was saying, as we're on board with Leopard 32, as he crosses the line to start the 8th lap of this sprint, due to the most recent Gran Turismo update, we've changed the race format a bit. So we still got 10-minute quali that you guys just saw, still got 15-minute sprint race, and there's about maybe 2.5 minutes left. I'd say probably about 3 laps to go. But of course, the most exciting change is now we don't have, I believe, I might have to get confirmation on this, that we don't have a one-shot quali anymore after the sprint race. We go straight into a reverse grid feature, which will be very interesting for a lot of the drivers who have struggled throughout the sprint. A lot of the drivers up to Chill's F1. And then we've got a little bit of a battle actually emerging between AB, BO and Andy Winters 11. I mean, last time BO and Andy Winters went side by side into the bus stop, we know what happened. BO took flight and ended up gaining about 7 feet. But this time, BO doesn't try to go for the move. Instead, he does get a better entry into the bus stop, but Andy Winters seems to be about level with him overall. And yeah, looking up and down the grid, not too much happened. I mean, Swerves tries to go for a move down the inside of Reset, and it doesn't seem to work. It seems like Reset took a better racing line, but I wouldn't put it past Swerves to try and make a move for that bottom step of the podium on, I mean, we've only got about maybe 2 laps left out of push. Quickly watching Leopard right now, of course. Probably going to be about 1 lap left as soon as Leopard crosses the line. Sorry, 1 minute left, and that will probably mean lap 9 is going to be the final lap. Oh, hang on, crazy contact right now happening between Swerve and Reset through sector 3, and Swerves does get the P3, but it looked like there was a bit of contact between the 2 drivers. I'm not sure whether, it seemed to me like Reset was going quite slow on that straight and was spinning out. Again, not too sure whether there was contact. All I know is Swerves is in P3, Reset's in P4, and he's probably not very happy about that one. Like I say, it is going to be the final lap of the race. Of course, we've only got 30 seconds until the end of the race, and it looks like Leopard 32 is going to take this sprint. He's almost 5.5 seconds in the lead. Of course, Major X2C has also had a bit of a boring race. He's kind of chilled in P2 for the majority of this race. But we've had some pretty good battles ranging from P3 all the way down to, well, really, P11, P12. Chills with another penalty. And in fact, I said there wasn't really too much of a battle going on down here, but yeah, right, it's about to launch one down the inside through the up on empty, and it works for him. He somehow doesn't take out Chills then. I was holding my breath. I thought Chills was literally about to get straight line then. I mean, that was a good move. Yeah, right, it was pretty ballsy, but it seemed to have worked for him. And Pulte is just straight up half a second behind now. He's in P14, yeah, right, P13. Chills, P12, of course, about to serve that 1 second time penalty. And I'll tell you what, Chills has been a pretty good driver to sit on board with. Not talking about his skill right here, ladies and gentlemen. He's been a good driver to sit on board with because of the incessant battles between AB53 Lego and Andy Winters. And I tell you what, the saga hasn't finished. It's a 1.5 second time penalty for AB53, meaning the position might change hands once again, because this is the final lap of the race, of course. AB53, and he's pinned it. I'm not too sure what's happened with AB53, but I'm just absolutely confused right now. We're going to stop following AB53. Of course, we'll get back to him in a minute. BO crosses the line in P8. Of course, Lep in P1. Congratulations to him. Incredible race, 5.5 seconds ahead. Major in P2, Swerves in P3. Bit of a controversial battle between Swerves and Reset at the end there. Reset, I'm not sure how, ends up losing another position to Wu right at the on the final lap there. Wu ends up coming P4. Pyro P, of course, Reset P5, Pyro P6, Skittles in P7. BO in P8 after an incredibly tough race. I mean, he did kind of get back from, I believe it was P12 there at the end. Andy Winters ended up coming P9, Lego in P10, yeah right, P11, Chills in P12. Of course, he had a final second, 1 second time penalty on the final lap. It ends up being, yeah right, he ends up getting that P11 position. M. Pulte in P13. And let's just talk real quick about what happened to AB right there. I couldn't cover it whilst it was happening because everyone was crossing the line. But he ends up getting a 1.5 second time penalty, or maybe, 2 or 3 corners away from the end of the race. And I'm not too sure what happens, whether there was contact with another driver, or whether he just decides to give up and spin off and pull the handbrake. But he ends up driving into the wall and then completely loses all physics of the car and ends up going into this vortex, only about 3 corners away from the finish. Well, he ends up finishing in P14, and unfortunately it's LD Kang, who rounds up the grid in P15. It's been a pretty tough race for LD Kang, but if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be starting on pole, ladies and gentlemen, for the feature race, which of course is going to be starting pretty soon. I've just realised that's how you see the racing information. Like I say, ladies and gents, yeah, I don't have too much experience when it comes to commentating Gran Turismo. I'm a little bit more experienced when it comes to F1, a bit more of my forte. But that's it. The sprint race finally concluded. We can take a few breaths, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it was Leper32 who takes the top spot, who takes the maximum number of points, by the way, for the sprint. How many points he gets, nobody knows. I definitely don't know. I don't think it's anywhere on the Discord. I'm going to leave you guys right there just for a moment whilst we wait for the feature race to start. I'm not too sure what the starting procedures are. I believe it could be reverse grids, but I'll see you all there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're hopefully about to start the race soon. I mean, somebody leaves the garage. I have absolutely no idea who that is. Just quickly checking Discord to see when the race is about to begin. I believe the race is about to begin shortly. HTT Pyro in the chat telling everyone to get ready. That's usually a good sign. In the meantime, I was just checking out the Watkins Glen corner names and corner numbers, and I'm pretty much no better off than I was before. Turns out none of the track maps count the bus stop chicane as a corner, which is very interesting. Very interesting indeed. At least I know a couple of the corner name. Oh, right, here we go. Ladies and gents, of course, it's a rolling start for the feature race. 40 minutes. It'll approximately be maybe 20 laps, 22 laps or so. Of course, mandatory pit stop, and I believe off we go. On board right now for some reason with Andy Winters 11. Just quickly pinging on all of the race info. Going on board with AB53. Of course, it is a reverse grid, so at the front there's not really too much going on. I think it's going to be far more interesting at the back. We've got side by side between BO and Andy Winters 11 into turn 1, and it seems like BO ends up getting the better line through the inside. Just quickly changing the camera angle to something a little bit more suitable. Look at this, at the back of the grid right now, we've got quite the battle between the drivers who obviously performed best during the sprint. They're going side by side into the bus stop chicane at the front. Is there anything going on? Not really. It's pretty square right up and down the grid. In fact, Chills F1 is going to go around the outside of AB53, of course. Oh, it's such an accumulation of so many drivers here. This is about 5, 6, 7 drivers right now, all going side by side through turn 4 right now, heading through the chute. And it seems like, yeah, right, gets a little bit of oversteer. And in fact, Andy Winters completely oversteers. It's a huge crash. Yeah, right, and Andy Winters are both pretty much taken out of the race. In fact, Andy Winters absolutely taken out of the race. And it's still side by side with about 5, 6, 7 drivers running from Leper in P13 all the way up to pretty much P1. Chills F1 having to serve a time penalty for the overtake he made on one of the drivers through the bus stop chicane that we covered earlier. BO all the way up into P4 already, of course, started about middle of the pack. He's dived down the inside of Lego through turn something. I've literally no idea which turn it is. And now we're on to the a couple of corners of the race. I mean, I have absolutely no idea what happened there on lap 1, but I'm sure it will be reviewed. Towards the last third of the grid right now, we've got quite a side-by-side battle right now between Major. He gets a really good exit from the final corner. Side-by-side now with Lou, with Leopard just ahead of Lou. Let's see if he can perhaps go for a double overtake. He brakes quite early. Of course, there's also a side-by-side battle going on between Reset and Skittles for P8. And a side-by-side battle between Pyro and Polty. Pyro unfortunately picks himself up a 1-second time penalty. He must have run wide at turn 1. But it means that Polty is actually going to get a pretty good run into the bus stop, but brakes incredibly early. He wants to play it safe. He doesn't want to risk anything. Heading down the grid right now, I tell you what, it's surprisingly clean through the bus stop chicane. Swerves right on the back of Reset right now. It really is insane how many drivers have just run wide through turn 5 or something like that. Let's just go with what they call it. It is turn 5 according to them. According to the official track map at least, that ignores the bus stop chicane. I tell you what, there is still quite the battle right now happening between Reset, Swerves, and Swerves has had an awful line right there through turn 8, through turn 7 actually, and that means that there are just so many driver places swap right now. We've got Pyro in P8, Leper makes a move, he takes a couple of positions, he's all the way up into P10. Swerves goes on the inside of Major around turn 10. Turn 9. I'll get there eventually, ladies and gentlemen. Meaning Major has actually lost quite a few positions right now. He's all the way down to P12. Just going up and down the grid right now, it seems like, out of nowhere, BO has ended up regaining the lead of this race. Of course, pole sitter after qualifying ends up having an awful sprint race all the way down in maybe about P8, P10. Starts the reverse grid feature race in about P8, and without us even knowing or commentating or reporting on it, he's all the way up into P1, leading the feature race. Of course, 40-minute race. We're about 4 minutes in, 3 laps complete. It's probably going to be about a 24-lap race after all. He's about 2 seconds in the lead, ladies and gentlemen, behind AB53. Looking up and down the grid right now, not too much is happening. Of course, it was an incredibly eventful first couple of laps, but it's kind of calmed down just a little bit. Off on. Reset is really looking like he wants to go for a move down the inside of Pyro right there, but because he took such an awful line, it means Swerve is able to just get a pretty good... In fact, he has decided to go side by side round turn 7, and he's just decided... And he's just gotten the position off, ladies and gentlemen. Swerves all the way up into P9 right now, representing the BMW M6. And apart from that, it isn't too much drama happening up and down the grid. I tell you what, quite a few of the drivers who started at the front, like LD Kang, M Polti, and Chills F1, they've actually been able to hold on to their positions pretty well so far, apart from BO, who has just absolutely overtaken everyone and carved his way through the field. They're actually relatively at the front of the race, which is surprising for Watkins Glen. Pretty good track for overtaking. I think it's just the carnage, the pandemonium that was occurring at the back of the grid. Talking about carnage, Major XTC is only about a tenth of a second behind Leper heading into turn 1. He picks his side, he goes for the inside, he brakes a little bit earlier. Both drivers are actually side by side right through turn 1, which is good to see. But travelling up the S's right now, it seems like Chills F1's got quite a lot of drivers to hold off right here. Skittles McNasty is right behind him, only about 0.3 of a second. But unfortunately, Skittles has actually got a Mazda Atenza right behind him. HTT Pyro, less than a tenth of a second between the two drivers. Pyro looks like he was about to go down the inside there into the bus stop chicane, but he decides not to. And now heading into the awfully long turn 5, Chills F1 is completely offline. I tell you who is taking the perfect line right now, HTT Pyro. He's not able to make the overtake on Skittles though. He actually has to brake, which is pretty safe driving there from Pyro. And LD Kang in front picks up a 1 second time penalty. Of course, the time penalty marker is just after turn 7, which we're heading into right now. Side by side between Swerves and Pyro for P9. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, there's carnage up and down the grid right now. Pyro clings on to P8. And it seems like Pyro, unfortunately, he was about to make a move on Skittles already. He's being threatened by Swerves for P8. LD Kang, of course, serving his time penalty, means he's dropped down to P7, meaning Chills is all the way up into P5, but Skittles is right behind him, heading towards the pretty tight hairpin here at turn 9. But it seems like it's going to be pretty easy for the top 5 drivers. Nothing really going on between the top maybe 7 or 8 drivers heading through turn 10 and turn 11. Skittles running a little bit wide there, but apart from that, Leper 32 in the Nissan GTR gets a pretty good exit from turn 11. Unfortunately, he isn't actually able to make a move. Nobody is. Swerves goes down the inside, which is not the best idea in my opinion. because that means Leper gets a far better racing line and a far better exit from turn 1 and takes P9. Now running up the field to the battle between P5 and P6, Chills F1 and Skittles. Skittles is all over the back of Chills right now. He looks like he's going about 15 miles an hour quicker, to be fair, but Chills is pretty hard to overtake through the S's, and it means Skittles is once again not going to be able to pass anybody. Heading into the bus stop, LD Kang. Oh, quite a big incident there for LD Kang. He misses his braking zone, goes onto the grass, and is now tapped by HGT Pyro, heading around turn 5, and it means he loses 2 positions between Pyro and Leper. Pyro and Leper right now battling side by side for P7. Pyro on the inside ends up taking once again another position. LD Kang now loses another position to Swerves. He's now down in P10. I believe he lost maybe 3 positions in 2 corners, and I tell you what, incredibly close battle happening right now between Skittles and Chills. Chills, of course, in the Chevy, and Skittles in the Mazda Atenza. Not sure which car's got the better straight line speed. I don't think it matters at the moment, because Chills is doing an excellent job with holding his position. And of course, as soon as we press circle, we'll be able to see what tyres everyone's on, and it seems like Chills has absolutely blistered his medium tyres right now. He's actually got pretty much more wear than anybody else up and down the grid. Apart from Swerves, of course, he is on the softs. He's decided to start on the racing softs. But it doesn't seem to be working out too well for Swerves, especially for a soft driver. He's been able to overtake maybe a couple of people, but at the moment it seems like he's stuck in this train running all the way from Chills, all the way down to, well, pretty much all the way down to P15. I tell you what, there's a pretty close battle happening right now between Major and LD Kang, heading into turn 1, and hang on, a bit of contact there between Andy Winters and LD Kang. Andy does get P11, but he did kind of sideswipe LD Kang through turn 1 there a little bit of contact. We'll see if the stewards investigate it, and because of that it means LD Kang's got an awful amount of understeer through the S's, and he's lost loads of positions. He's all the way down into P15. Hang on a minute, there's a 3-way battle heading into the S's with Swerves on the inside, but it doesn't matter. HGT Pyro takes the outside line, gets a little bit of oversteer there. I think he ends up hitting into the back of Skittles in P6, and it means once again there are 5 drivers that are side by side, and Chills has been able to gain about a 1.5 seconds advantage over Skittles. Not too sure what happened there, but suddenly Skittles is battling with Swerves for P6, and it's all kicking off because Skittles ends up picking himself a 1 second time penalty. Either he run wide round turn 1, or perhaps he had a bit of a moment through the bus stop chicane, perhaps trying to overtake Chills. But it means as soon as Skittles serves his 1 second time, look how many positions he loses. He's all the way down in P9. In fact, Andy Winters actually pips that P9 off him, and he also loses a position to reset as well. So Skittles all the way down in P11. Just about 5 or 6 positions there with a 1 second time penalty. That is just how crazy and side by side this racing has been. And I believe that we've got the bloody background music in the background of this stream. I mean, if we do, it's a little bit of entertainment, I guess, to spruce things up. Of course, Swerve heading into the pits, and so does BO. I didn't check. Of course, Andy Winters as well. All 3 drivers started on softs. I didn't realise, though, guys, that BO 2603, of course, leading the race from P8 at the beginning, is actually on softs. So we'll see whether he's leading, whether the strategy's a good one. But at the moment, AB53 is not just provisionally leading the race, ladies and gents. He's just flat out in the lead, about 2 seconds ahead of Lego in P2. Unfortunately, Chills, the master of defending, possibly, or it could be that he's just driving incredibly dirty and punting people off. I mean, he has received quite a lot of penalties this season. Regardless, he's just picked up a 1 second time penalty, probably running wide through turn 1. A lot of drivers have been getting 1 second time penalties for that exact thing, and I tell you what, a lot of time penalties have been administered, surprisingly, throughout the feature race, much more than the sprint. It's probably because the feature has just been incredible drama. It's been absolutely side-by-side action, and the action still doesn't stop, all the way down in P13. There's a little bit of a battle right now for, I guess, P11, LD Kang, who I was singing his praises a moment ago, talking about how well he's been able to hold on to, is it maybe a P4 or a P5? And unfortunately, the last couple of laps have been terrible luck for him. He's all the way down in P11 right now, and he's got Major XTC. Of course, Major finished, what, maybe P2? He did. He finished P2 in the sprint race, meaning he finished, he started the feature, quite low down the grid. but it seems like he's been struggling a bit. I mean, right now he's really struggling to overtake LD Kang. In fact, he almost loses a position to right in the Subaru. Let's see if he can slip one down the inside of turn 11, and he does get P11, ladies and gents. Quickly watching BO, of course, BO 2603 was the leader of the race. He went into the pits. He's banged on a fresh set of medium tyres, and he is a man on the mission right now. He brakes incredibly late into turn 1. Chills brakes incredibly early, and he gets a double overtake through turn 1. That's an insane move there from BO. I'm not too sure what happened with Chills there. He ends up losing 2 positions due to perhaps driving extra cautiously and braking just extremely early there into turn 1. But Wu with an incredible line out of turn 1. Look at the speed difference between the two drivers. I said, I mean, beforehand there was, I think, Wu's giving BO a little bit of a bump draft, and he gets an awful line through the bus stop, and he almost actually ends up going off the track. In fact, Chills gets a far better line through the bus stop. He's now down the inside of him through turn 5, and he does get the position. It's a pretty good racing line there from Chills F1. He does get the PA. Wu looked like he was about to go down the inside. In fact, he is about to go down the inside. It's a triple apex turn 6, and he lines that up perfectly. Chills is going to go for the dive bomb surely down the inside of turn 7, and he does, and there's contact. Wu is pushed off the road, and in fact he ends up going on the grass right there and losing a position to Skittles as well. Now it's Chills in P8, Skittles in P9, Wu in P10, and of course BO has been able to just pretty much overtake everyone, and Chills gets punted off the track there by Skittles McNasty. That was a bit of a... Oh, and he's all the way in the gravel. I can't believe it. That was a bit of a nasty move there by Skittles. I'm not too sure whether that was Chills braking way too early, or whether Skittles did just straight up miss his braking zone, tap into the back of Chills and punt him off the track. But here are the facts, ladies and gents. Chills F1 all the way down in P11 probably lost about 5-6 seconds of race time, and he does pick up a half-second time penalty. Skittles, not at all due to the incident between him and Chills. He ends up running wide through, oh, imagine, turn 11. Oh man, it's heartbreaking to see. Chills has actually put up a really good defence there throughout the first, maybe third of this race. Now he's got Major right on the back of him, battling for P11. Like I say, Major been struggling quite a bit there to gain positions throughout this feature. I think the best solution right now for Chills would probably be to pit early. I mean, a lot of the medium runners, to be fair, I think there is a real great split. I was about to say actually that a lot of the medium runners are getting ready to pit right now, but there seems to be a split. Okay, so drivers in the Lexus RCF, like Lego right there, have really kind of shredded their mediums, and they're going to be pitting any minute now. Now I'd imagine that's how their mediums were during the sprint race as well. Real quick, there's a side-by-side battle between Reset and Leopard there for P5 into turn 7, and it looks like Reset just straight up gets the position. It was a pretty clean overtake there, pretty textbook. But yeah, as I was saying, quite a few drivers are right on the cusp of having to pit. Wu as well, and then Chills F1, I believe he's just had to serve a time penalty alongside LD Kang, who also looks like he's about to pit. Apart from that, it seems like quite a few drivers are going to stay out for quite a bit longer. Wu makes a pretty easy overtake there on Skittles McNasty for P8. It seems like the major battles this race have been occurring between maybe P7 down to about P12, P13. Talking about drivers pitting, let's just see if anyone does decide to pit. And at the moment, nobody has actually entered the pit lane. It'd be interesting to see. No, Chill's also not deciding to pit. Of course. Oh, Hank Swerve's getting a far better exit from turn 12, final corner right there. He isn't able to make a move down the straight. Is he going to go for a dive bomb into turn 1? Hang on, he is! I did not expect that! Chill's running incredibly wide, braking incredibly deep, and almost getting a time penalty for running wide there through turn 1, has meant Swerve is able to get a easy overtake there for 12. But yeah, running up and down the grid, seems like things are finally calmed down, ladies and gentlemen, for me to take a breath. I feel like I've been commentating non-stop now for almost 20 minutes. Of course, we are 20 minutes into the race, about halfway. It's a 40-minute race here. You may get an extra minute or so due to the kind of disparities. Of course, as soon as it hits 40 minutes, it's the final lap of the race. But usually that means an extra maybe 45 seconds to a minute of racing. But like I say, once again, just scrolling through the grid. Doesn't seem like too much of a battle's going on. Of course, we've got AB53 right now into P1. And Lego behind. You see, there's about wow, there's maybe a 7 or an 8 second gap. In fact, even more, about an 11 second gap between the top 4 drivers right now. And it seems like Lego is absolutely desperate to pit. Did you just see his tyre wear? I believe that could be a puncture on his front left. He's decided to stay out for an extra lap, and that means Wu has also either got a puncture or is right on the verge of getting one, and so is Major, and surely Chills, yes it is, Chills also absolutely worn his tyres right down to the carcass there. Let's see whether he's able to do a proper entry into the pit lane. And no, he isn't. He crosses over the yellow line. I don't think he realises that you can't cross the yellow line. Watch, he'll get a 3-second time penalty when he comes out of the pits, and he'll only hear about it when he's received the time penalty. I mean, very rookie mistake there from Chills. I mean, we might as well watch the drivers. I'm not too sure whether that was lag or whether that was legit, but Lego just absolutely clouting the wall right there. I was going to say, I might as well quickly watch all of these gentlemen who have decided to pit. HDT Pyro onto a set of softs, reset on hards. Chills F1, surely just coming into the pits any minute now. He's onto the softs, and watch, a big 3-second time penalty is going to appear at the top of the screen. Yes, it does, ladies and gentlemen. He cut the corner, but so did Skittles as well, to be fair. And so did Reset. Quite a few drivers there cutting. Now, of course, the reason why I was able to identify whether drivers were or were not pitting so early is because you're obviously not able to cut the yellow line, the yellow pit entry line, otherwise you'll get yourself a penalty. But in order to not cut the line, you have to do an awful, it's a bit dangerous really, an awful line into turn 12, the final corner. You literally have to hug the apex, whilst other drivers are, of course, on the outside of the corner, you know, going for the racing line. There's about a 50-mile-an-hour speed difference between drivers who are pitting and drivers who aren't. So it is a bit dangerous, really. I do think that it's a bit egregious, monitoring the pit entry lines. But alas, we've gone for a realistic approach here in ALR, and of course that's an approach that Chills is not going to like, as he's just finished serving his time penalty right now. He's about 48 seconds behind the leader, BO, and it seems like Bo has decided to go for the best strategy possible. Of course, he started on the softs. He was able to get P1 pretty early on, and he's been on the mediums now for, what would you say, about 7 laps or so. So it seems like the softs only last about 5, 6, 7 laps before they go, maybe 8 at push. But yeah, like I say, BO absolutely laughing right now into P1. Leopard 32's in P2, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't pit. Of course, I need to talk about this. Half of the drivers have pit. So a few of the drivers have started on softs. They've pit, they've recovered. They're already maybe about a third of the way into their medium stint already. Now we've got about a third of the grid who have decided to pit within the last couple of laps because they're in cars with very high tyre wear. You're talking drivers like Lego, you're talking drivers like Skittles and Chills. They've all just pit, and the majority of people have gone onto a fresh set of softs as well. Pretty much the second half of the grid are all on softs right now. Of course though, we're ignoring the final third of the grid, which includes Leopard 32. Drivers who are in cars which have quite low tyre deg, or maybe it's just that they've driven quite conservatively all race. They are still yet to pit, so Leopard is by no means in pit right now on merit. He's just not. Of course, I'm not saying Leopard's a bad driver. I'm saying as soon as he gets out of that pit stop, he's going to be all the way down in, I don't know, P6, P7, P8, P9. I'm not too sure. I'm not actually too sure how long the pit stop is, actually. That's a good topic to talk about. I don't know, it's maybe about 25-30 seconds, so he'd probably come out around Andy Winters in P6. But apart from that, of course, on the half-second time penalty for Lap. Perhaps he's listening to the commentary and has been distracted by the revelation that he's actually not in provisional P2. No, I tell you who is actually in provisional P2. Of course, it's AB53. He's actually had a pretty strong race. All race. He was in P2 before. He was in P1, of course, when BO pit. And now he's all the way down into P4, of course, just banged on a fresh set of soft tyres. But, yeah, it's looking pretty calm right now, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, heading into the second half of the race. M. Porty looked like he was desperate to make a move on Andy Winter's 11th P6. Of course, Porty's on the softs, isn't he? And Andy Winters is on some pretty heavily degraded medium tyres. I think he might have started on the softs, to be honest, because that deck looks awfully lot like BO's in P1. So yeah, Porty, I mean, you got a feel for Porty right now. He's absolutely desperate to make an overtake on Andy Winter's 11, but he's just such a clean driver, I guess, that he's just stuck behind him like Andy's a safety car. Can't believe it, he's desperate to make a move, but he just isn't. He isn't making one at all. Swerves, of course, into the pits already. He was one of the first drivers to pit off his medium tyres and onto some softs. And they only lasted about, what, 5 laps, and already he's back into the pit lane. Be interested to see what the softs are doing for drivers like Chills and Skittles, and they look to be relatively decent. Seems like Chills right now. Excuse me, Chills is struggling a little bit. Maybe it's the kind of the momentum shift. He's all the way down in P13, not too many drivers to battle with. Kind of makes you as a driver drive a little bit more slowly. And it seems like Porty is being punished for its kindness right now, because Pyro, on an pretty much equally degraded set of softs, has been able to overtake him through the S's and into the bus stop. Means Porty was desperate to get that P5 position. Well, he's all the way down in P7. Now Pyro will show how it's done. Andy Winter's 11 goes wide through turn 5, and already Pyro's alongside him, although to be fair, maybe Porty was right to air some caution around Andy Winters, because he's just pushed Pyro off the track, 2 wheels on the grass. But it's not a difficult overtake for Pyro, is it? On the soft tyres. Oh, hang on, maybe it might be. Andy Winters braking quite late down the inside of turn 7, and he just hits into Pyro there. But it seems like it's pretty clean into the deceptively tight turn 8. Pyro does brake a lot later, and he's got the position, hasn't he? P5, HTT Pyro. I was going to say that Andy looked like he was about to make a position there. Or make a move, sorry. Maybe M. Porty will finally try and make a move, and unfortunately, no, he just doesn't have the confidence to make a move on Andy Winters. He was once again side by side with Andy, and once again decides to brake and give Andy the space he believes Andy rightly deserves. Of course, Leopard 32 in the pits. We'll see where he comes out. I predicted maybe about P10. I tell you what though, this very nice, I guess, polite driving style from Porty is really costing him, because, well, Pyro's already pulled out almost a second on Andy, and now, yeah, right, he's right behind Porty. It seems like Andy Winters is a bit of a bottleneck right now, but he seems like he's only a bottleneck for Porty. I mean, I respect a clean driver more than the next guy, but Porty just seems to not have the confidence right now to make an overtake on Andy. Maybe I'm missing something, I'm not too sure. But he's been stuck behind Andy now. He's on pretty degraded medium tyres for, well, probably over 2 laps. I mean, I started watching these guys about 2 laps ago. On board now with, yeah, right, and he is absolutely desperate to get past Porty, isn't he? And in fact, we've got another driver who's decided to join the train, and that's Wu, who had a pretty good sprint race. Didn't he come P3 or P4? It's a pretty good result for him, at least. Right, let's see whether Porty can make a move on Andy into turn 9, and unfortunately he can't. He tries to make a move on Andy, hang on a minute, and then, yeah, right, just slips down the inside of both of them. And ends up getting 2 positions in a single corner, heading through turn 10. He's now in P5. Which is, you've got to give him credit. Finally, Pulte is able to go through only because Andy Winters decides to pit finally off his medium tyres. I believe that's going to be Andy's second stop. Started on softs, he's been on mediums now for a good 10 laps, and we'll see whether he's going to go onto another set of medium tyres. I would imagine there's probably only going to be about 10 laps remaining, I would say. Maybe 11 or 12. This could actually be quite a long race. Could be seeing about 27, 28 laps. Normally you expect about 24. But it seems like a bit of a boring race right now for BO 2603. It's just absolutely loving it, isn't it? In P1, 16 seconds ahead of the gentleman in P2, AB53, who's actually had a pretty, well, boring, I guess you could say, race once again in P2, but by no means has he been a bad driver. He's just kept it clean, really, hasn't he? He's just banged in the consistent laps, and it's been quite quiet, actually, for the top 3 drivers for quite a while. It's definitely not been quiet for the bottom half of the grid, though. As you can see, BO decides to enter the pits once again. I would imagine he's going to bang on another set of mediums for the final 9 or 8 or so laps until the end of the race. Of course, we've already had about 30 minutes of the race pass already. AB53 back into provisional, I was about to say provisional pole, it's more like provisional P1. But of course, he's on the softs, he's going to have to pit once again, isn't he? He's going to have to go on the mediums, and he's definitely not got enough fuel to make it to the end. In fact, he's probably not even got 1 lap of fuel left, so I'd be a bit careful right now if I was AB53. And of course, whilst I'm going on about fuel and everything, we've got a 3-way battle between Pulte, Yeah Right and Pyro. Of course, now as Andy Winters, what am I going on about? Now as Andy Winters has obviously gone into the pits, Pulte suddenly had a real burst of pace. He's caught all the way back up with HTT Pyro, and it means Yeah Right is actually going to go for a move on Pyro into the bus stop. It doesn't work out. They collide. Yeah Right goes wide, and Pyro maintains the P3 position round turn 5. But it's close, ladies and gents. Yeah Right is only a couple inches, I would say, behind HTT Pyro. Now heading towards turn 6. Pyro's pulled out a little bit more, but Pulte, he's ready to strike. He's less than half a second behind Yeah Right. And I tell you, if there's another battle like that through the bus stop chicane, I could imagine Pulte making a double overtake. So yeah, a bit of a crazy battle happening right now for the bottom step of the podium, P3, but of course it isn't, actually, ladies and gents, because BO has pitted, and guess what? He's come out right behind this battle for P3, meaning BO, desperate to, well, he's 16 seconds ahead of everyone else, desperate to pass all of these back markers, I guess you could say. Well, he's going to be right in the midst of this battle. Talking about this battle, Pyro almost looked like he was about to lose the position to Yeah Right, but he doesn't. He clings on once again, and both drivers, all 3 drivers in fact, are heading into the pits, which is ideal for BO 2603, who's able to steamroll past all 3. Happy days. Everyone's in the pits. Look at that. BO's got an empty track ahead of him by about, what would you say, 20 seconds or more it's got to be at this point, of course. Then again, I'll say that though, Leper only about 5 seconds behind BO. Not too sure whether that's on merit. He's decided to pit for another set of softs. I believe he was on softs a minute ago, perhaps. Could be mistaken though. A lot of stuff has happened this race for sure. I mean, I'm kind of desperate to see what happens between Pulte and Pyro and the rest of the gang. To be fair, what's happened right there? Oh, of course, Pulte has decided to refuel. A load more fuel than Pyro now. With full 3 drivers, separate the 2 drivers. Chills also in the pits. He's got 1.5 second time penalty. Let's see whether he cut the pit entry line. No, he didn't. Well done to Chills. I believe he had a puncture though on his front left soft, or it could be that it was just really, really close to getting a puncture. He's actually got 1.5 second time penalty right now. Not a good race so far for Chills. It's pretty good for the first like third of the race, but then as soon as he got hit off by Skittles McNasty, it's kind of just gone downhill for him, hasn't it, unfortunately. And once again, it's been terrible luck for LD Kang, who's tragically going to score very little points in the feature race, just like he did in the sprint. Unfortunately, I believe he started last, actually. And his AI may have actually driven him for the last couple of laps, because he was quite a significant margin behind old AB53. Of course, AB is probably desperate right now, isn't he, to get a big points haul during the feature race. If you guys are only just tuning in, AB53 had a bit of an incident towards the end of the sprint race. He ended up spinning off, getting lost in the gravel, lost in the grass somewhere, and just spinning off into an endless vortex. He ends up finishing P14. The only driver to finish behind him was LD Kang. But AB is still absolutely loving it right now in P3. And I'm not too sure what's actually happened with Leper in order for him to get P2. Could be that he's just been able to overtake drivers on merit with pace, having, you know, an empty track ahead of him. But AB53 has been in P2 in this race for quite a while, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. He's on the softs right now. Quite a few people are on the softs, actually, for the last, what would you say, 5, 6, maybe 7 laps of this race at a push. Don't think it'll be 7 laps. We've only got about 6 minutes left, so it'll maybe be about 3 or 4 laps at a push. So, as a quick rundown of these drivers, once again having a quick peek at the Drivers' Championship on Discord. The Drivers' Standings, of course, is what I mean. And the championship leader right now, BO2603, is of course currently leading the race with only about 5.5 minutes left in this race. It looks like he's going to take home the P1, and he might even take home the fastest lap as well. Look at that in the bottom left hand corner, 1:43.437. Of course, that's also worth valuable championship points. The exact value of championship points, I don't know, but I'm sure it's worth quite a few. BO2603, of course, leading the championship by 13 points as of Circuit de la Sarthe. Had a terrible sprint race, ended up finishing P8 or something in the end. Of course, the sprint race ended up going to Leper 32, who is in P2 of the championship, only about 13 points behind BO2603. But in all honesty, ladies and gentlemen, I think the two drivers were equal after the sprint. But now, BO is going to be a little bit ahead of Leper if he can secure this victory. And it looks like he's going to be able to. I mean, BO is actually pulling out every lap. A bit of a gap from Leper. AB53, the driver who had a pretty tough, pretty unlucky sprint race, well, he's doing pretty well right now. Of course, in the Drivers' Championship, he's all the way down in P10. But it's surely going to be a huge injection of points right now. He struggled quite a bit in Circuit de la Sarthe last week. Of course, he ended up finishing P12 and P14, but hopefully this will be a good point injection for him. I'm sure there'll be a huge amount of points for him for P3, and he'll probably be skyrocketed up the driver's standings, because there's only, what, a handful of points separating most of the drivers in the bottom half of the championship. Now heading down to Swerves, of course, he's had a relatively interesting race, perhaps a little bit boring, much more boring compared to the absolute pandemonium that happened in the down the second half of the grid. Of course, Swerves is right now chilling in P5 in the Drivers' Championship. Was looking pretty strong around tracks like Sardinia and Alsace, but struggled a little bit once again around Circuit de la Sarthe. I feel like a lot of drivers have struggled around Circuit de la Sarthe, and because of that, they have they've lost quite a few points. I'm obviously getting distracted a bit here right now with just watching people's races. I do apologise. I mean, I have been talking non-stop now for, I mean, I say 37 minutes. It's much more like an hour voice is starting to get a little bit tired. Hang on a minute, there's a bit of a battle between Lego and Swerves, and Lego makes a pretty easy overtake. Of course, he's on the soft, so I wouldn't expect anything different. Swerves now down to P5. Of course, he's P5 in the championship right now as well, and it seems like it will be a pretty decent result for him. He's only 7 points above... In fact, no, he's only 7 points behind Major XTC, who's all the way down in P7. So it seems like we might actually see some points, some positions, switching and swapping after round 6. Of course, it's only an 8-week championship, by the way, so everyone watching thinking, round 6, we're only, what, halfway through the championship? No, we're not. Only 2 more races, and I will tell you guys what's next on the calendar shortly. We're, of course, on the final couple of minutes now of this race, so I would say another lap and a half. It's probably going to be a 24-lap race in the end, which is what you'd kind of expect, really. And did you see that? Mayor XTC has just pipped BO2603 for the fastest lap. Pretty decent. He's banged on the softs towards the end of the race. Looks like he was able to get a bit of a tow there from Andy Williams. Talking about Andy Williams, I believe he is... he's in P3 of the championship, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I was just trying to find him on the standings there. Of course, he did tell me about this. He won the feature race last week around Circuit de la Sarre, I believe, possibly, potentially. I mean, that's what it says on the standings. Whether or not he won. Oh no, he didn't. I'm having a full-on brain fart moment, ladies and gents. Anyway, he didn't tell me last week. I'm getting him mixed up with another person. Andy Williams ended up winning the feature race, of course, at Circuit de la Sarre. Very good result for Andy Williams. He's in P3 at the moment in the championship. 33 points behind the top 2 championship protagonists. And unfortunately for him, it's only going to be an even bigger gap because, of course, BO and Leper, who were both right at the top of that driver's standings. Well, they're just going to end up pulling out an even bigger gap, aren't they? They're P1 and P2 once again. And I tell you what, real quick, Andy Winters looks like he's struggling quite a bit on these tyres now. Look, he's sliding all over the place, and he's got this massive train behind him of pretty much the rest of the pack, apart from maybe LD Kang and a few of the other drivers. What I'm saying is that Andy Williams is struggling. He's got a puncture. This is going to be the final lap for half of the grid, and there we go. Andy Williams crosses the line in P6, and that's the end of the race for half of the drivers. Of course, not the top half. I don't think there's going to be any overtakes throughout the remainder of the race, so it's time to just focus on board right now with the top 4 drivers who were able to cross the line just in time to give themselves an extra lap. Of course, whilst we're watching that, Swerves finishes in P5, the gentleman in P5 of the championship. Andy Winters in P3 of the championship finishes P6. Major XTC in P4 of the championship finishes P7. But he did get a pretty good sprint race in the HTT Pyro, all the way down in P7 in the championship. Ends up getting P8 in the feature, and M Polte. I mean, it was quite an intense race towards the second half, wasn't it, for M Polte right there. Ends up pipping P9. He's chilling at the moment in all the way down in P17 actually in the championship. And real quick, picking right up to the top drivers as they finally finish this race. It's been quite a long haul. BO2603. I've got to give him a service. I've got to be on board with him as he crosses the line. In fact, we can go for the cinematic shot. Here he is. And there we go, BO2603 getting the full swing apart from fastest lap, of course, for the feature race. Leper just behind in P2, AB53 in P3. Don't know how he lost that P2, but he did anyway, purely on strategy, surely. And just to finish off the race, Lego all the way down, all the way up really in P4. Don't know what I'm talking about. Final driver, of course, to cross the line for the checkered flag. I mean, that was a tragic race there, ladies and gentlemen. It was quite carnage all the way from the start, especially that feature. I mean, we had 3, 4, 5 drivers going side by side for most of the first half of that race. My voice is pretty tired. It's been a long time since I have commentated, but I think that is the conclusion. There's definitely going to be quite a few mix-ups in the drivers' standings. Hopefully I've given you guys a pretty good picture of the drivers' standings towards the end of that race. All you really need to know is that BO is once again back after a bit of an unfortunate sprint. He regains the championship lead with Leper behind. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Another week of ALR concluded, and I tell you what, if all of the races are as dramatic as the race was just there, then I think I'm going to have to start doing more of these commentaries. I hope you guys enjoyed. Anyway, this is the first time I commentated for ALR in quite a while. First time I've done any commentaries for a while, actually. Hope you guys enjoyed the commentary regardless. That's the conclusion of round 6 of Aero League Racing Group 3 Championship on a Monday at 8 o'clock. Quickly checking the calendar. Next week we've got Tokyo South counterclockwise, the night race, and that, I can tell you guys, it's going to be absolutely ridiculous. If they've got strict corner cutting rules on the wall collisions as well, then we're going to see a lot of time penalties through Tokyo. And then of course, that's after the Christmas break. It's not going to be next week, ladies and gents. It's all the way over on the 9th of January. And then on the 16th, a week later, is the season finale around Spa. But I guess it's going to be a bit of a break now for ALR for Christmas. So I guess I'll be back here for another commentary in January. Possibly. Possibly not. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary. And that's it. ALR round 6. Good night.